Now, I want to introduce you to my hat. It's such a special hat, it even has its own stand. This hat can enrich your life, give you a sense of purpose, and bring you closer to people. I've used this hat with friends and family, and I've made some amazing discoveries. This is the hat of big questions, and I'm going to tell you how you can make it, so that you can have your very own hat. And instead of sitting at the dining room table, on your phone, checking out Facebook, you can have a new centerpiece that starts the conversation. Now, I was inspired to create the Hat of Questions when I heard about an organization called StoryCorps. They started in America in 2003. They set up a story booth in Grand Central Station, and they simply asked passers-by, strangers, friends, family, to go into the booth and ask each other questions, to share stories. And those recordings were put into the public library, so anybody can go and listen to them. But what was really important was they started conversations, shared stories, and future generations will be able to go back and listen to those stories firsthand. And while I was investigating this organisation, I found that they had a list of questions for every relationship you could imagine. Friends, family, work colleagues. So I simply copied their questions, printed them, and put them into my hat. And it's random choice, random selection, and random stories. Now, it can be really awkward and difficult sometimes to ask questions, to start the conversation, but it does have a magical way of bringing you together. I'll give you some examples, and this is a random choice. We have got, do you regret anything? See what else we've got. What is your first memory of me? Now, I've been on this quest for a very long time. As a teenager, I was incredibly shy, and I spent a lot of time watching and listening to people talk. And I kind of saw that they never really talked. They didn't have those bigger conversations. They didn't share their stories. It was as though they were scared. Now, I'm the kind of person, when I meet somebody now, I shake their hand and I want to say, who are you? Not how are you? At a party, I'll be doing some crazy dance, or I will be in the kitchen talking to somebody, trying to uncover who they really are. And I want to share a story with you that inspired my quest. Back in 2000, I went away with friends. We've been doing it for over 20 years now. It's a way that we get together and we reconnect. And that particular year was a significant year. We were all going to be really old. We were turning 30. And that seems like a long time ago now. On the Saturday night, we'd been to the local holiday place, and we'd entertained the holidaymakers with our, synchronised dance. We have our own dance. And we'd gone back to the chalet to open the last few bottles of wine. Now, I was feeling on a bit of a high, and I wanted to suggest something new. You see, I'd been asked by my dad to write a letter to my gran about her life. The idea was that we wrote about my gran's achievements, celebrated her life, and I got to tell her how she'd inspired me while she was still alive. And I'd been working on that letter the week before. I wanted to suggest we did something similar, so I did. My friends were up for it. We took turns leaving the room, and the others would write what we celebrated about that person, a funny story, and what we thought they would be doing in 10 years' time. Now, Neil was my oldest friend there that night. I'd known him since high school, and he had the longest list. And he went round and picked up all the bits of paper. He was going to type them all up and email us. But they never reached our inbox. They were found in Neil's bag, along with his body, in the River Thames. Just a soggy ball of paper. You see, Neil had suffered from depression for a very long time. And despite how much he was loved, he couldn't see a way through. But when I spoke at his funeral, I was able to reflect back on that night, share some of those stories, make that funeral about Neil. I was so glad I'd had that conversation with him, that bigger conversation. And I knew he knew how I felt, and I knew how he felt. But I've not always had the chance to capture those moments before it's too late. When I was studying for my media degree in Lancashire, I would often go and visit my gran. She lived near Blackpool. And I can remember distinctly one Saturday afternoon having a cup of tea with her and saying, I should be capturing these stories. She said, dear, I've got nothing interesting to say. But she'd just been telling me how she got the nickname Spitfire. Apparently, when she was newly wed, she started a fight with a neighbour who she thought was having an affair with Grandad. And the name stuck. But I never went back and captured those stories. Life got in the way, and now it's too late. All too often, we forget to find out about the people that are sharing our lives. How many of you know the person that you've come with today? How many of you have been to funerals where you found out in that small moment more about that person than the whole time you'd spent with them? Isn't it better that we get to know people while we're still alive, rather than when they pass away? Now, we can be afraid of having those big conversations, that's understandable. But just remember, talking about sex doesn't get you pregnant. Talking about death doesn't make it happen either. Now, a few years ago, I went travelling with a very good friend of mine in my camper van, heading down through Europe to Italy. We had a little ritual in the morning where we'd get up, have a cup of coffee, work out where we were going, often try to work out where we actually were, and we would then open randomly from a book of quotes we had with us. The one quote that I remembered from that whole trip was one by Kevin Walsh. It says there'll be 2 dates on your tombstone, and your friends will read both those dates. But what's going to matter is that dash in the middle. That's your dash through life. Now when I go away with friends, I take the hat of questions. With us, it's ever present. I record our conversations on a smartphone. That's the joy of modern technology. I haven't listened to them yet. Those people are still in my lives. But I know that as time moves on and they start to disappear, I've got my own personal archive to go back to. You can have your own hat of questions. You can start that bigger conversation, capture some of that dash through life, and it will bring you more joy and happiness than you can imagine. Thank you.